I try to avoid reviews wherever I can before I've seen a movie, but it's been hugely publicised that critics seem to like Suicide Squad almost as much as my dad likes me, which is to say that they don't. Now I've finally seen it myself and I can add my own thoughts and yeah, it's shit innit. Us critics, we are very angry. Really, what a doozy of a bad movie. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I actually liked it. I'm just worried you guys won't think I'm cool anymore if I say that out loud. Nobody is more surprised about this than me, especially when you consider the absolute slating it's been getting, but you know what? Fuck it. I like Suicide Squad, goddammit. Take my movie critic card, see if I care. Joke's on you, I don't have one anyway, because I'm not professional enough and I say the word fuck too much. So ha! Anyway, the plot of Suicide Squad comes straight off the back of the also in-universe Batman vs Superman. With Superman out of the picture after the events of that terrible movie, high-ranking government official Amanda Waller, portrayed by Viola Davis, surveys the current scene of the world and thinks, balls. That Superman, we kinda needed him, like. I mean, when he wasn't murdering us en masse, yes, I'm still bitter about that, he was a stand-up fella. So she comes to the conclusion that the only apt replacement to Clark Kent's alter ego is a team of people with special abilities that they can call on to save humanity whenever the going gets tough. And so they make the Justice League, except they don't make the Justice League, that doesn't happen here. No, they make the Suicide Squad, a team of villains with special abilities who get the promise of time off of their prison sentence if they'd be so kind as to solve some of the world's issues as they arise. Then, sure enough, a great big threat appears and is probably going to destroy the whole city and all of mankind because this is a comic book movie and that's the only tale they know how to do, and so they're brought into action. Conceptually, that's already a fun idea. As opposed to the clean-cut, smiling baby faces we're so used to, we instead get a team of potentially backstabbing misfits. The stakes are automatically higher because there's more chance of failure, and the dynamics are more interesting because they aren't necessarily friends, so internal conflict can come quite naturally. There's a lot of places you can go with the basic premise, and Suicide Squad doesn't quite fire on all cylinders and come out with a crazy kooky caper creation, that was hard to say, but it does, at least in my opinion, provide a good deal of fun. It's oftentimes style over substance, but the style is really cool. Straight from the start, we get a glimpse of the punchy comic book aesthetic the movie's aiming for. Wide, bold shots filled with neon and colour introduce character bios riddled with bouncy typography. Everything is somehow murky and gritty, yet beaming with this kind of bright pizzazz. It looks as if the whole thing has been filtered through Max Landis' hair and then recoloured to be a grounded in reality movie only after it's received the full rainbow dye treatment. It's like if a gay pride parade took place in a Jason Bourne movie. Certainly not a look for everybody, and it's too dark at times, not tonally but literally, but I dug it. This aesthetic carries over to the cast of characters who look as equally impressive as their surroundings. The Suicide Squad's crew of misfits is made up of Harley Quinn, portrayed by Margot Robbie, the dangerously violent girlfriend of famous crime boss the Joker. And yes, I did say girlfriend in this particular interpretation. There isn't much more dynamic complexity to their relationship, they just seem to be going out. Also, there's Deadshot, portrayed by Will Smith, a hitman for hire with incredible gunmanship who is missing his daughter growing up due to his incarceration. And on top of them two, there's a bunch of other people who, for the most part, don't matter. I jest, of course, but this really is the Deadshot Harley Quinn variety hour. Even the Joker is barely in it, and his presence in the movie was crazy hyped. Not just with the trailers, but with all that pseudo Jared Leto is a crazy person bullshit. I hated that crap. It had nothing to do with the movie. Whoa, rumour has it he sent Viola Davis a dead pig? Yeah, well, rumour has it our Prime Minister fucked one. Didn't make the twat any better at his job though, did it? Leto's actually really underwhelming in this movie. I love the guy. Dude's an Academy Award winner, you know what I mean? Lad can act. But here he's just... yeah. I can't decide if it was due to a lack of screen time, or if his writing was weak, or if it was just him. I mean, he did keep making weird cat noises, which... why? I'm all for new interpretations of characters. I mentioned this before in my Batman vs Superman review. Batman killing people wasn't a problem. The issue was that they did nothing interesting with it. It's the same with the Joker here. They've shifted his insane anarchy character to a more grounded crime boss. He's still green-haired with pasty white skin and all that, but here he's more of an actual mob boss with henchmen and monetary goals than the nutjob we're all used to. And that's not conceptually a bad thing. Writers have tried to make Joker more focused on organised crime in the past with books like Azzarello's Joker and came to some interesting results. But here the Joker's just a big chav. A chav, or chav if you're not from England, is a non-educated delinquent. It's a stereotype of people who wander around with a proper fuck the police attitude thinking they're hard because they once sold a bag of weed to their nana. Americans don't quite have an equivalent stereotype to this. I suppose if anything it's somewhere between a wannabe gangster and trailer trash, but that still doesn't quite hit the nail on the head. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this Joker isn't scary or interesting. It's just a dude in face paint who laughs a lot and comes across as a bit of an edgelord. The only reason we even know he's a force to be reckoned with is because the movie outright tells us, whoa, look, this dude's crazy, look, ooh, everyone's terrified of him. But really, you could replace all of his dialogue with, look how hard I am, I run a club because I'm pure ballin', I got loads of guns cause I'm mint, I got a purple Lamborghini because my dad never loved us and I'm trying to replace the hole in my heart with tacky material possessions and a rebel attitude. It's even got neon underlikes like my one in Need for Speed Underground 2. Whoa! Other characters just aren't developed and are mostly just there to pad out the crew in action sequences or deliver a comic relief line, which sometimes sticks but also often doesn't. To his credit, El Diablo has a real definitive arc and is probably in a narrative sense the only real character in the whole product that remains consistent to his own motives and actually grows as a person from start to finish. However, he still doesn't get nearly as much focus as Deadshot or Harley. That said, criticisms aside, I pride myself on being an honest reviewer, and as much as I'm going to get shit on for being an idiot mouth breather for having this opinion, the film made me smile. Oh, I can list a fair amount of problems. It's flawed, it's got clunky dialogue, it's sometimes messy, it drops the ball with the ending, it can be tonally all over the place, and it spends far too much time trying to establish a bigger DC universe that there are moments when I swear you can actually see where the execs at Warner Brothers have had their grubby little hands all over it and made two versions of the same film in one edit. But, on the other hand, it's got a nice style. The effects in the first half of the movie can be really spectacular. The set pieces are joyous. The directing is grand in that kind of huge theatrical stage play way. And there is fun to be had here. So what's with all the bad reviews then? Well, I know what you're thinking. And you're right. Marvel are obviously just paying reviewers to discredit No. Get that tinfoil hat off your head, you mad bastard. There's no conspiracy, the bad reviews are legit. In my humble opinion, I think it's a fun afternoon's entertainment, but nobody is wrong for saying it isn't. They're allowed that viewpoint, and even though I personally like it, and you might too, let's not all get into a butthurt egotistical sea of self-wankery over this because there's nothing that devalidifies your opinion more than denouncing those of others. In fact, I like to sometimes make my videos more than just a review every now and then when the film in question makes for a catalyst that leads into an interesting talking point on an issue surrounding films in general. I did it before with my Ghostbusters review and the sexism scandal that surrounded that, and I'd like to do so again by taking this time post-review to discuss what the reasons are for people disliking the film, why they are completely valid, and why, if you do like it like me when everybody else seems to hate it, it doesn't fucking matter. But mostly, I want to just talk about fandom culture. However, I can't quite do that without going into some spoiler territory. So if you don't want to go past the review and have anything ruined for you before you see it, then turn off the video because we're approaching spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's go off character again for a bit. I know I don't really have a character, but again, that's the only way I can sort of explain what I'm about to do. I know I just said I liked the film, but that doesn't mean it isn't without significant issues. In fact, in some ways, the film is actually narratively broken. Now, you can't really speak objectively about movies. You can try, but it's always going to be somewhat clouded with personal opinion because art is subjective and films are an art form. Now, that said, that doesn't mean you can't switch your perspective on a movie and look at it from a different angle. As I've already stated several times, I enjoyed this movie, and before anyone shoots me down for being a hypocrite and having contradictory statements here to what I said in my review, you should be aware that even though it's going to seem at times like I'm criticising the film, perhaps harshly to those of you who like it, that doesn't remotely change the fact that I had fun watching it. I was in the cinema. I was there. I could feel myself having a good time. It happened. But here's why people didn't like it. At least here's what I think. If you take Suicide Squad as a narrative, there are a lot of places where it just doesn't work. Let's look at the characters. Now, as much fun as these might be when they are on screen and as memorable and charismatic as some of the performances may be, that doesn't make them good characters. There's a case to be made that El Diablo is actually the only real character in this whole thing. Everyone else is more of an avatar to push the plot forward. Now, what makes El Diablo that? Well, mostly, he's consistent. Characters can evolve and change and they can be expanded on and explored, but the progression has to feel natural. His motivations the whole way through the movie are that he wants to redeem himself after accidentally killing his family, which happened because when he gets angry he can't control his fire powers. So, he resigns to being calmer. He chooses not to use his fire ability. We see him lose control, regain control, and ultimately die, winning his redemption. That is an arc. There's an inciting incident, the death of his family, which causes his character to evolve from gangster to pacifist. We see him struggle with the transition, and ultimately we have narrative payoff, with him earning the hero's death he wants. Now, Diablo is a secondary character, and yet somehow he has a far better narrative than those with the most screen time. Let's go through them now. Deadshot has motivation. Fair enough. He wants to see his daughter again. But he begins and ends the film the exact same person. He's a hard ass with quips who loves his daughter. And he stays a hard ass with quips who loves his daughter. And he gets to see his daughter again despite learning nothing. Now, sometimes characters don't have to change to be interesting. Judge Dredd, as an example, stays true to his character by not changing. But that lack of change is important to his identity. Because for those of you not in the know, Judge Dredd is a comic book character who is a stickler for staying within the realm of the law, and he punishes criminals for their missteps to the maximum effect after even the slightest misdemeanor. His character is incredibly closed-minded, so when he'll go entire narrative arcs without learning a thing, it's because that's how he works. He works off his own closed-minded view of the law. Deadshot works off of love. The love for his daughter is the one thing stopping him from shooting Batman at the beginning of the movie, and it should have been his catalyst for change. It would have been humiliating for him to have his daughter see him like that, and they could have played it as the reason he wants to be good, but instead, he doesn't grow from that experience at all. And in a particularly inconsistent moment at the end where Enchantress makes the squad hallucinate their dream visions of what they really want, Deadshot is shown to envision killing Batman. Really? That's what he wants? All this time he's been motivated to see his daughter again, but all he really wants is Batman dead? Nah, I don't buy it. Yeah, Batman separated them by putting him in prison, so he might want to kill the guy, but ultimately the true thing he wants in this world is surely his daughter, not petty revenge. Now let's look at Harley Quinn. Again, very charismatic on screen, fun to watch, well acted. Not really a character though. Harley in the comics has a complicated dynamic with the Joker that drives her actions. She'll have arcs off the back of him being awful to her and off the back of him being kind to her. Here's one random example. Joker's a cruel dick. She evolves, she becomes sad, and we see her struggle to justify his actions. She comes to her senses, she leaves him, she ends up with Poison Ivy. See, there's an arc there. Catalyst, struggle, change. The movie's Harley though is inconsistent. She doesn't change throughout the whole runtime. She quips and she's fun, but she starts and ends the exact same. Apart from one moment where they try give her development when she turns down Enchantress's offer to bring back her beloved Joker from the dead in order to save her new friends. Not a bad idea in theory, but not one the movie's earned. She loves the Joker. She adores him. She met these people maybe 12 hours ago. It doesn't work. They haven't had the natural evolution. She just switched. The secondary characters are bad for this too. Captain Boomerang leaves the group the second he gets the chance, and that's great because that fits exactly what his character would do. But then without any explanation, he comes back. I get it, haha, he's a boomerang, he went and he came back. But the coming back isn't something his character would do. It doesn't make sense. It might make for an admittedly clever boomerang metaphor, but it's bad storytelling. Rick Flag doesn't work either. He changes his thoughts on the squad, but there's no arc for him. There's no narrative path to follow. Where's his moment where he stands up for the squad at the end of the film to Waller? That would make sense as an arc. He has this concrete idea that he's a good guy leading bad guys, gets to see them and himself in a different light, and then ends with the inverse of that and him thinking, nah, Amanda, we're the bad guys. Give these people their freedom or I'll expose you, you horrible bint. From a non-character perspective, you can still tear apart the film if you want to. There's loads of inklings of good ideas that go nowhere. When we see Amanda in her bed, she's sleeping alone. That's intriguing. Even the squad have people who like them. But the government woman fighting for good doesn't? Why not explore that premise? The Joker had baby clothes next to all his knives. What was all that about? Was it to tie into Harley's fantasy at the end? For what purpose? Or was something left on the cutting room floor in the messy behind-the-scenes edit that supposedly went on? They seemed to also start a commentary on shady paramilitary dealings by having the formation of the squad be the reason for all the carnage when Enchantress goes rogue, and yet nobody thinks to bring this up or explore this idea. Like they set up the plotline, but then didn't know what to do with it. Pacing can also be construed to be really messy. Flashback sequences pop in seemingly at random. The Joker and Harley VAT one, for example, is completely pointless and comes way late in the movie, revealing nothing about the characters. Some characters are also introduced twice, and others are barely introduced at all. Slipknot, for example, is there to die and raise the stakes, but because he lacks any real introduction, when he dies, nothing comes of it. At least if he'd had a super stylized introduction like other main characters, his death might have come as a surprise and gave the impression that anyone could die. But we're introduced to him, and he's killed just as quickly. So he's basically the equivalent of a Star Trek red shirt. Katana's also only there to give Harley a sword at the end, another non-character that only seeks to push plot, but not narrative. I could really keep going, but I've made my point, and you can sort of see where the critics who dislike this are really coming from. The only reason I really wanted to get into this was to talk about fandom culture. There's an obnoxious internet present that are just consuming any old shit that their preferred brand will put out, hailing it as a masterpiece just because it has some character they like in it, and making out that everybody else is an idiot and not a real fan for disliking it. You know the type, the ones who are trying to get shit like Rotten Tomatoes banned or something, and it's just stupid. What this is it's people trying to seek validation. They think something's great, and when someone else doesn't think it's great, they take this stance where they feel they need to go on the defense. They tell themselves, no, I can't be wrong about this, they must be the idiot and I'm the smart one. These people just don't get it. And honestly, if you've ever followed that logic, do you have any idea how pretentious you sound? The only reason I have spent the second half of this video absolutely tearing down a movie that I actually enjoy is to prove that you can have a negative or positive stance on anything. It just boils down to personal subjectivity when you weigh up the pros and cons as to whether you enjoyed something or not. People can disagree with you. It's not moronic, it's not biased, it's not unobjective. It's just somebody's thoughts on a movie. In this instance, I thought that while the movie didn't always work as a film, it did work as a real fun time, and that was enough for me to give a positive review. But I've already seen people giving negative reviews getting criticised for being salty or Marvel fanboys or idiots, and honestly, I shouldn't have to explain this, but if you like something and someone else doesn't, or vice versa, that doesn't detract from your thoughts. I can respect that this film got slated. I don't think that anyone who is slating this film is personally attacking me, and I don't feel the need to join some allegiance in a weird fucking brand war that, quite frankly, outside of this one strange little internet bubble, no one gives a flying fuck about. Yet the amount of toxicity on any review I see of a superhero movie, positive or negative, Marvel or DC, always far outstretches that of literally any other movie reviews. And this weird fan obsession of having to like something just because it's a part of a brand you like is odd and arguably damaging. If you sincerely enjoy a movie that was otherwise panned, great. You do you carry on. I mean, it's literally what I'm doing right now. But I've come across friends who feel like because of this fandom culture, they can't dislike anything Batman related because then they might not be a real Batman fan, when in actuality a real fan, if such a thing even exists, might hold the media they consume to a higher standard and be less accepting of trash. Stop calling people who don't like the movies you enjoy not real fans like some kind of cultural Orwellian big brother. It's not up to you to decide who likes what or how much of a fan somebody is of something. You're not more of a comic book fan because you totally got Suicide Squad when all these other idiots didn't. And that friend of yours isn't not a real fan because they didn't pick up on all the obscure references in the latest Marvel movie. People can be fans of whatever they want, to whatever extent they want. Being a fan simply means enjoying something. It's not a fucking status symbol. Stop wearing it like a crown.